The Bitcoin Group, the American original. For over the last 10 years, the sharpest Satoshis, the best Bitcoins, the hardest cryptocurrency talk. We'd like to welcome our panelists, Ben Ark from LN Bits.
Hello all, really glad to be back on the show.
And I'm Thomas Hunt from the World Crypto Network. Moving on to issue one, the price of Bitcoin. The price of Bitcoin is down 0.3% in the last 24 hours, with a last of 84,362 and seemingly rising, with a high of 84,759 and a low of 81,151. That's $1 for 1,186 Satoshis. Our top story is also the price of Bitcoin. Bitcoin tumbles to $83,000 as heavy liquidations and Fed uncertainty weigh. The price of Bitcoin retreated sharply on Friday, falling to the lowest level over 2 months after a wave of forced liquidations hit leveraged traders, while investors weighed the potential impact of a Federal Reserve leadership change, as well as the trouble in the Japanese market and many other fun and exciting macro effects on the Bitcoin price. Of course, the Bitcoin Magic 8 Ball predicted that the price would go down last week, so all you had to do was listen to the ball. That's as simple as it gets. Ben Ark, welcome back to the show. What do you think about the price of Bitcoin?
Yeah, I mean, Bitcoin's a risk asset still, which is kind of sad because we don't want it to be a risk asset. We want it to be a safe haven in choppy markets and when things get bad in the markets. But we have a thick layer of finance on Bitcoin, traditional finance and traders. And because of that, it's a risk asset. We need more commodity use cases for Bitcoin. We need Bitcoin used as money. We need the programmability of Bitcoin to be explored more so we can use it as a point of truth in our digital world, which is incredibly valuable and it has all these like an infinite amount of commodity use cases. But if you look at safe havens such as gold, they have all these commodity use cases, and Bitcoin just doesn't have that yet, which means that when there's the threats of less liquidity in the market, people are going to pop out of Bitcoin and they're going to go somewhere else, going to put their money in gold. When there's more liquidity in the market, then Bitcoin's price is going to go up. And that's like, the age-old thing, which you can trade against it. When liquidity is abundant, risk assets go up. When liquidity tightens, risk assets go down. And currently, Bitcoin is a risk asset, which is sad. And you have to sort of think again about some of the thought leaders you have in Bitcoin who claim that it should only be used for X, Y, and Z, and ultimately kind of keeps it restricted as a risk asset. It should be a safe haven. It should have that digital gold property which people can bet on in choppy times, in choppy markets.
Well, I think the reason it doesn't have that yet is we're still kind of a secondary asset. People have to sell their Bitcoin to cover their stock market losses and to keep especially their shorts and longs in the stocks alive. A lot of the losses we've also seen has been people who are shorting the long in the market. They think that it's finally over and that it's finally going to move clearly in one direction. And then Bitcoin does the exact opposite, moving up, moving down, destroying shorts, destroying longs. It just keeps happening. If you hold the underlying asset, you're okay. You're okay as someone who holds something that was worth 120 and now it's worth 82 can be, but you're better off than someone that lost their entire position. And again, I think people are having to sell their Bitcoin to cover their stock market losses. We saw gold drop, we saw silver drop, we saw the market drop. They all recovered. Bitcoin didn't recover. I'm tired of that. I'm tired of that happening, as well as Bitcoin taking the 24/7 news hit. If anything bad happens on the weekend, Bitcoin goes down. Then on Monday, when the news hits the normal market, Bitcoin goes down a second time. Hopefully, if we get that tokenized stock market that they're promising us, that will make the markets more reactive. And then we can all go down at the same time. Ben, what do you think more on the markets and the price?
I just think we need to make that wedge of finance and traders, and we need to make that thinner. And then just, we have like a whole bunch of people who just hold Bitcoin and use it as a store of value, and that's great. We need to make that bigger. There's one commodity use case. And then we use it as money, like figure out ways in which we can have stable medium of exchange on Bitcoin. More and more people use it as money. Figure out things we can do. I mean, it's just the most secure point of truth which exists in the digital world. It has immense value, and we just need to build out those applications more, not suppress them, because actually that's the thing which makes Bitcoin a safe haven ultimately. And if it always is always just this trading tool, and yeah, like when there's risk in the market, people will pull out, and when there's liquidity, people will buy it up as a speculative thing. So yeah, just we need to make that wedge of traders.
Well, I definitely watch out for what people are saying in the chat. If you're going to try out Claude Bot on your Mac Mini, I wouldn't keep any Bitcoin keys on there. Ben and I were talking about before the show, there's been some large databases released by the US government, and maybe you'd want to look through there for some Bitcoin keys. I can imagine the same thing would be true of any Claude or Molt or AI that you have access to your local hard drive. That's why, again, it's such a good idea to have a Trezor or a Ledger or a whatever hardware wallet where your keys are off and separate from your computer. It's going to get really interesting in the future. And a lot of these things, people are giving access to their AIs on purpose to like let them do things. Part of the Google selling pitch is that they already have your email. Why not let us have the AI read your email? Then we'll predict the future of what you want, or whatever I'm not sure what the sell is, but it'll be great for you. But
yeah, no, when it comes to discovering hidden treasure, AI is great for that, and it'll borrow its way deep into your system and then read all those emails and figure out where your keys are kept. And yeah, we were saying just before the show, because we had the Epstein dump of all those files. I was like looking through for the Bitcoin wallet. I was like, I'm sure this guy's got a Bitcoin wallet somewhere in here. So you're looking through, and there was some really interesting things, which I may have been out already, but I found like a lot of communication between Epstein and Jeremy Rubin, who's a core developer, and then Brian Bishop as well. It was just on technical stuff, nothing gross. And then really early on, 2011, there was an email meeting. It was arranging to meet. Is it Darren Norman, the guy who set up one of the first Bitcoin exchanges with Amir Taki and Gavin Andreessen, and they were from like 2011, and Epstein was chatting to them about Bitcoin. So I was like, I didn't find a Bitcoin wallet, but I did find out that Epstein was a Bitcoiner, which was, yeah, bittersweet.
We'd had some previous reports. They thought Epstein might have been like working on the Bitcoin project or new Satoshi or something like that. But I'm pretty sure he was a big finance guy. He had tons of money. And if you wanted money, whether for Bitcoin or any other technical project, I figured you'd line up and try to get that money from him. So
it was kind of interesting. Really interesting. He was sort of skeptical because there was an email from him to, I think it was, I can't remember the name of him, like an in-between, like a friend in between, who's connecting Amir Taki and Gavin Andreessen to Epstein. And in that email, Epstein was being skeptical, saying that he thinks it's a great idea, but he also thinks there's a bunch of flaws in Bitcoin. But then later on, he seemed to be obviously having all this communication with Jeremy Rubin in like 2014, 15. So clearly but it sort of played against, because in my head, I was like, oh, this guy is an idiot. And, he probably just got money from like extortion, from ripping off that old guy and having all this dirt on people. But I guess he was like, involved in the business community, like to be having emails and arranging meetings with Bitcoin in 2011. It was, the kind of got your finger on the pulse there, and even a horrendous person, of course.
It is so funny which laws he would break, which laws he wouldn't break. He's like, oh, that's a finance law. Oh, you could get in a lot of trouble for that one. I wouldn't do it. But we've got to move on to the exit question. Predicting against the Bitcoin predictor ball, the source of all truth of this or any other universe. Ben Ark, will the price of Bitcoin be higher or lower this time next week? Keeping in mind that the ball is always right and was right yet again right last week.
I think as long as the rumors persist on this Kevin Warsh becoming the new head of the Fed, then the price is going to continue to go down, because markets just going to have less money in them.
It doesn't sound good. I'm always bullish, so I'm going to stick with that. But let's check out the ball. What will the price of Bitcoin? Will the price of Bitcoin be higher this time next week? And it says you may rely on it. You may rely on it. The ball is very positive about the price of Bitcoin. Moving on to issue 2, Binance to shift $1 billion user protection fund into Bitcoin amid so-called market rout. Binance will convert the stablecoin holdings of its $1 billion Seifu fund into Bitcoin for the next 30 days, with plans for regular audits and to boost the fund if it falls below $1 billion. The last time Binance did this in 2023, they boosted the price of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and others, perhaps causing the giant 2023 rally. Ben Ark, is this it? Is Binance providing the rocket fuel over the next 30 days, buying $1 billion worth of Bitcoin?
Yeah, it's interesting whale moves. I'm not sure whether it'll really touch the sides now, $1 billion. But yeah, dipping in and out of Bitcoin to buffer downturns. It's a kind of interesting play by Binance. So there's another, who else was talking about doing this as well, committing some cash to Bitcoin to, oh, that was another story, a very similar story of someone who's going to move liquidity
Well,
into
obviously,
Bitcoin to try and buffer
Michael
out the downside.
Saylor put another 250 million in. MicroStrategy keeps buying Bitcoin every few weeks, putting a large amount in.
Yeah,
I don't think
it's someone else.
I don't think $1 billion's enough to really move or back up the price. I mean, I applaud this by CZ, and I also applaud it by CZ knowing, at least from the publicly available history, that CZ is a heavy holder of Bitcoin, spoiler alert. So, of course, it's great for him to back up Bitcoin, to choose that as the asset. It's interesting that the last time they also did Ethereum and maybe another coin, maybe even some stable, something like that. This time they're going all in on Bitcoin, really making it the backbone or the underlying rail of this cryptocurrency industry. But a little terrifying too, because as the price suddenly drops to 82 and everyone starts freaking out, if they feel like they need to shore up the market, that's not great. Ben, what do you think? He's got technical issues. I also heard one of the original Bitcoiners, one of those kids that bought back in the day.
Yeah, I mean, if you've got a spare billion lying around. Sorry, I think my internet connection kind of sucks. Yeah, if you've got $1 billion lying around, if you know that the Bitcoin price is inevitably going to go up more, then, why not? So well done, CZ, for putting your Binance money in there. So he knows the price is going to go up. He's got $1 billion lying around, whatever.
This could be a mirror of the classic move that Josh is always talking about when Tether, near the bottom of Bitcoin, went in heavy, perhaps even using customer reserves and other funds. But because they won, nobody ever talks about it. They made good money. They won. If Binance does the same here, they could be big winners. As I was saying earlier, I've heard some early kid that bought Bitcoin sold all of his. So a lot of large whales are exiting the market, but perhaps they're just being replaced by new whales. New whales. Moving on to issue 3. Issue 3, Kevin Warsh. Markets react as, quote, pro-Bitcoin economist tipped for the Federal Reserve. Kevin Warsh is apparently a fan on Bitcoin. He said that they should not have a condescending tone during a talk show, and he defended the Bitcoin, saying that it was not evil. However, he doesn't see Bitcoin as a threat to the dollar and the Federal Reserve. He sees Bitcoin as more of a barometer, as he says, an important asset that can help inform policymakers when they are doing things right or wrong. He says, quote, it is not a substitute for the dollar, but he thinks it can often be a very good policeman for policy. He says that software cannot be good or evil. It could be both. He also says that, you need to, hedge Bitcoin a little bit. He's worried about gold and the sell-offs. But mainly there's an issue where he wants to continue QE, but not hold assets, something where it could continue money printing, keep interest rates low, but not boost the stock market, which is what everyone wants. Thus, the stock market's not very happy with the pick of Warsh. Previously, they believed that they were going to get the head of BlackRock in there. Seems like a more experienced gentleman who would probably do the traditional QE, where they lower rates and buy stocks, buy assets, drive up the price of everything, and essentially save the market, which is what the market is asking for. Instead, the market is getting this guy, who also was up for the job a few times previous and beaten out by others like Jerome Powell. Ben Ark, what do you think about the potential new Federal Reserve chair in the United States?
I mean, if you watch that video with him when he talks about Bitcoin, and he kind of corrects the interviewer on Bitcoin who asks him, I think the interviewer just sort of frames Bitcoin in a bad light. And then he corrects him and he's like, no, this thing is really important. You should, I mean, it's the still which is there is taken from the video. It's kind of not hard to find. And he's a Bitcoin. He knows Bitcoin. He knows it well, and he explains it very well. However, he's not someone who's going to flood the market with liquidity. He's someone who's going to tighten ship and apply those household economics to the US's economics, which means that there's going to be less liquidity out there, which means that risk assets go down. So yes, he is a Bitcoiner, and he's favorable to Bitcoin. He understands Bitcoin very well, but he will also probably do a bunch of things for the economy, which will mean that there's less liquidity flying. The markets don't have the liquidity to put into a risk asset like.
Well, as we've seen in the past, Trump always chickens out. So maybe there's a possibility he changes his mind on Warsh as he sees the markets reacting poorly, large investments, how it's impacting poorly, everyone's selling, everything, complete disaster. Maybe he'll change his mind, but we're going to continue monitoring the situation. It was just announced, I believe this morning, that Warsh is going to be the pick. Looks like Walsh, but it's Warsh. Moving on, check out worldcryptonetwork.com, where it says we've been going for 12 years, 2 months, and 0 days. Happy birthday, World Crypto Network, or something like that anyway. Check it out at worldcryptonetwork.com. World Crypto Network. Issue 4. UAE's central bank has approved a USD-backed stablecoin. The USD-U stablecoin issued by Universal Digital, a crypto firm regulated by the Financial Services Regulatory Authority, FSRA, of Abu Dhabi Global Markets. Again, as other countries continue to pass the US, launching official stablecoins. And Grand Forks detective says if you or someone online asks for Bitcoin or gift cards, you're being scammed. Ben Ark, which issue would you like to talk about? The new Abu Dhabi USD coin and the continued spread of both stable coins and cryptocurrency, or cryptocurrency light technology in the world, or the Grand Forks detective who has pretty much painted Bitcoin as scammer money?
Yeah, I quite liked his quote, the detective guy, because he's like, anyone who asks to be paid in Bitcoin is a scammer. And I was thinking about all the people I paid to work on LMBit stuff, and I was thinking they're scammers. The reality is, if you run a business and you pay people in cash, or you pay them in Bitcoin, Bitcoin's so easy. Someone gives you an address, you send them some money, and like paying for stuff like the services we run, it's easier as well. And then just when you have to engage. Like, I know for LMBits, the company, we have like 4 bank accounts. It's bonkers. It's just so complicated and messy. And then you get unbanked, you get rugged by someone because you don't have full control over it. It sucks. Like traditional banking does suck. And we should never lose sight of the fact that Bitcoin is just far superior technology as a payments technology. But yeah, I like that quote that anyone who wants to be paid in Bitcoin is a scammer, because I was like, well, that's, all these Bitcoins. I get what he's saying. Like anyone who reaches out to a normal person and asks for you to go to an ATM and put cash in and send it to their Bitcoin address, yeah, they're probably a scammer. But then on the other stories, I'm just going to hop in on both stories if you don't mind. The UAE, yeah, they've just kind of gone straight.
Let me talk about that first one
Oh,
first.
sorry. Yes, please.
Yeah, I agree with you, Ben. I think he's definitely painting us as scammer money, but I think this is part of a continuation of pretty much the end of Bitcoin ATMs. We've been showing you story after story, the FBI calculating how much money's lost, local story here, local story there. Bitcoin ATMs are basically acting like a vacuum cleaner, bringing in scam victims. And I think there's a large pool of elderly scam victims out there who the simple advice that the guy's saying, if anyone asks you for Bitcoin, they're probably a scammer. They're not going to hear that advice. They're not going to get it. They're going to have this thing where they think that their relatives are kidnapped or the IRS wants money, and they're going to go to the Bitcoin ATM. And it's horrible to hear, the story we've said many times about our friend who had to stop the lady from putting the money in, but to hear yet again that this kid had to stop this old man from putting 2,000 in. It sounds like they have a reasonable limit. They've locked it at 2,000 a day, but still in 10 days, the old man could send them the 20,000 they want, completely drain his account. If it wasn't for a nice kid at the shop who thought to himself, yeah, this old man doesn't know anything about Bitcoin. He's not investing in crypto. He's getting scammed. And I think more and more of those machines are going to be seen as scam entry points, and they're going to be removed. And it's going to be this thing. Oh, yeah, you used to be able to go to local Bitcoins. Oh, yeah, you used to be able to buy it at an ATM. But now you've got to meet like a dealer in the back alley to get your Bitcoin.
Which is a massive shame for remittances, for example, the great application of remittances for Bitcoin. If you're a cash dollar worker in the US and you want to send money back home, then Bitcoin's great. It doesn't charge you I don't know, whatever it is, the 10% or 15% that you get charged for moving money. What's that big company? Charges all the money for moving money from one country to another.
Western Union.
Yeah, Western Union. Yeah, Western Union. And it's insane. I remember Bekele when he was talking, because El Salvador's, I think it was like 95% of the GDP was remittance money from people working away and sending it back home. And then, most of them are using Western Union. So Western Union was, getting 10%, probably about 10% of the country's GDP. And yeah, it's great if you could just stick it into a Bitcoin ATM and send it via Bitcoin to a country like that. So it is a shame that these scammers are ruining all the fun for the rest of us, as they all.
They certainly are, and I don't think we'll have any choice. As well as on the other one, UAE,
let's
USD coin. Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, no, you want to go first on this one?
I don't have that much to say about it. I just think again, I think other countries are experimenting with stable coins. They're experimenting with Bitcoin. They're getting out there ahead of it. Certainly you wouldn't say these days that, UAE or Abu Dhabi is a backwards place. Clearly they're ahead of things here with finance. They have incredible skyscrapers and so on and so forth. Just a future looking move. I think we're going to see other countries experiment with stable coins. And it just sounds like, again, like from, unexpected places. You don't have to be in Silicon Valley to have a stable coin. You can have your own new Silicon Valley that seems like they're developing there. And it just seems like another international development worth keeping an eye on. Ben, what do you think about the USD?
Again, when you talk about GDP, so I think it's speculated that 20% of their GDP is illicit funds. There's no secret that Dubai, a lot of the leaders of organized crime have places, in Dubai. Because once you get the money in there, you can kind of spend it. No one cares. You can just buy whatever you want with cash. So this certainly helps to serve that economy of users who need cross-border flows without too many questions. So it is interesting, like the UAE running straight to the finish line, so not having all these white papers and committees and whatever else, and just creating the stable coin. I hate stablecoins. Are mostly all completely bollocks, and I hate them. I do like the idea of stable medium of exchange on Bitcoin, but we're not there yet. But the rest of the world, they do find a lot of use in these stable coins. And I really think it's just a play. The UAE realize, they're panicking, they've rested on their laurels for too long when it comes to their oil reserves and the amount of money they make from oil. And that's eventually a dwindling supply, and less people are going to use oil as we move into the future. So they've tried to expand into tourism, whatever else. And one of their most successful expansions has been into a safe haven for a lot of gangsters who need to move money across borders. So they have this huge incentive to make something like a US, a stable coin, which these people can use. So it'd be interesting to see how that translates to the rest of the world, like where else there's USD, was it USDU? USDU, is that what it's called?
USDU.
Yeah, USDU. It'd be interesting to see where else it pops up, and how many criminal cases end up seizing USDU. But yeah, we'll see.
And I think we'll see the same thing we saw last week with Tether, where people realize all the wrong way that USDU can also be frozen, can also be reversed. It isn't like Bitcoin. Everyone's like, Bitcoin, oh, it means this. Therefore, every copy is the same. Every copy's not the same. But what I think is especially interesting about this story, Ben, is that we're seeing country level fights now. We used to see Coinbase versus Tether, and their companies, or Binance. These are very large companies, but now we're seeing entire countries start to fight. And as horrible as it may sound, if we really look at the core of this, sure, they're stable coins and they're backed and they're great, but it's almost like an ICO. It's almost like the UAE is having an ICO, and maybe the EU will have an ICO, and the United States is far behind, but eventually will launch their own ICO'd coin. And eventually you have to figure, as much as we want to say this is worth $1, wouldn't the United States stablecoin be worth $1.10? Maybe the British one $1.18. I mean, when they start having a choice, and maybe it comes back to this, the first thing we said about the censorship. Maybe there's more censorship on USD EU coin. Maybe there's less on the United States coin. Maybe there's more on the British coin. Maybe this affects the value beyond just being stable as of what you can use it for, which again goes back to, even if Bitcoin becomes this background currency that people use for, drugs and illegal oil and, mercenary transactions, it's still useful, still valuable, still a thing, but maybe just not as good for everybody. So, what do you think, Ben?
Sorry, I was on a little side quest. I don't know if she's watching, but one of the best reporters in Bitcoin, Lola, she was asking, because I posted about the Emir attack email from 2011 earlier, and she was asking me about that. I was just saying it'd be a great article because it's so juicy. If you, I mean, just go into those Epstein files and search for Bitcoin, and sorry, I'm going off track here, but there's a lot of correspondence, and there's also all these decks from a lot of Bitcoin companies, like Coinbase from back in the day. So clearly he was, investing in the industry, which is just, I think, as a Bitcoin, it's a very interesting lens to look at the whole thread of data through.
I think there's a lot. There's a lot of
money
articles
came
there,
from as
Ben.
well.
I think they could definitely do one just on the pitch decks of the Epstein files, not just Bitcoin. Maybe do the tech ones too, just as like a who's who of who is pitching Epstein. And also a great, interesting indicator there would be, like you're saying, he's so early. He's pretty much, I don't want to say, he's kind of like Ashton Kutzner, right? He's this early investor guy. I'm sure Ashton Kutzner gets a lot of emails from Bitcoin people and other ridiculous things they want him to invest in. And certainly just because he got the email or had the meeting doesn't mean he invested. But you could also do kind of a ticker of how much money he could have made. And maybe he didn't have to do all the trafficking and all this evil shit. He could have just made money on Bitcoin. It would have been so much easier. It doesn't have to hurt anybody. But
I
yeah,
tell
I
you,
think.
I tell you, the weird bit is the Jeremy Rubin email. Jeremy Rubin's a very gifted and great core developer who I love. But he has quite a lot of correspondence with Epstein, and it's quite friendly. But it's a technical thing. They're talking about technical stuff, which is interesting to see him go from this journey in 2011, where clearly he's being approached by to invest in like an early Bitcoin company, and then there's a bunch of decks from these Bitcoin companies, and then he ends up being quite technical with one of Bitcoin's core developers. So I would say he was thick in the weeds by 2014. So yeah, probably put a bunch of money. I mean, he had a load of money, probably put a bunch in. And I mean, Christ, can you imagine if you put $1 million into Bitcoin in 2014? Like, what was the price at 2014? $300? $400? What's a million times there? How does that work? Where are we now? 80,000.
Math.
So math, yeah. So what would $1 million be back then? How many Bitcoins would that buy you? Go on, Thomas.
3,333,
Holy smokes. So
something
how
like
much
that.
would that be worth now? I mean, I know he's dead now,
3,000
but
Bitcoins. Let's see. Around $246 million, 246 million for a
Not bad,
1
not
million
bad.
investment.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah,
Never,
sorry.
well, never too late. And then it's also great that Amir Taki, friend of the show, we've met him at several conventions and stuff, is mentioned in the file. So now we're all 2 degrees from Epstein, and if you're watching this now, you're 3 degrees from Epstein. So we're just closer and closer to this thing that we
Yeah,
want
I
to
would like
be.
to clarify
And
as well that I'd like to clarify as well that in 2011 when he was talking to Amir Taki, he sounded quite skeptical of Bitcoin, and I couldn't find anything else that he had actually invested in their company. But yeah, it's interesting. Some interesting historical documents there.
if somebody tells you that Epstein was into Bitcoin early, tell them no, he didn't like Bitcoin. So that just proves Bitcoin is good by the reverse principle. Anything he likes is bad. Anything he dislikes is actually good. So, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see if Lolo comes out with an article about that. I hope to see it. Like you see, Ben, it's really easy to search for Bitcoin, and I'm sure people smarter than us are using regular expressions and all kinds of things, searching for those magic words or magic keys, or maybe even just search for the word password in there. Who knows what's going on in these?
I
They
mean,
they
that's
certainly
that's
can't
what
redact them all, you know.
it does have an API, so you could make a little program which just searches through all the BIP39 words and then sees if you can start to, I mean, there's going to be a bunch in there, but, and then, maybe there's like a hidden seed in there somewhere.
Well, and
Yeah.
obviously you shouldn't do this, but going back to this earlier topic, and I think I don't know what it is about Claude bot and Molt or whatever, but it just captures the mind that you could have a Mac Mini, $500, whatever it is, $1,000, plug it in, put this software in there, not know very much, turn the software on, and then have an AI that, according to the reports, would like text you stuff. And then the thing that there's a strange thing where people are like, I want to have my own AI because I don't trust the AI that, say, OpenAI or somebody's providing, right? Because you don't want to give your bank account to that. But then they're like, if I had a local AI, I would trust it completely and give all of my horrible details, like my phone and my bank. And maybe they're jokes, but there's all this stuff about people leaving their computer on overnight and letting it do whatever and having the bot do it. So, of course, you should definitely not. And then there's a new thing. I think Cloudflare set up a thing. You can just do this online now. You don't need the Mac Mini, so you can just pay Cloudflare. But you definitely shouldn't set up a bunch of honeypots like this to get everybody's Bitcoin keys with this run your own AI nonsense scam. Nobody should do that.
Yeah, do you remember the film The Game with Michael Douglas, where
Hmm.
early on they just ask him like, I don't know, a couple hundred questions, and then from those questions they're able to figure out what all his passwords are, and they're able to kind of like backdoor his whole life, and then create, this game for him, which they runs through. That's the thriller. That's the plot of the film. It's a bit like that. Like human beings, we don't have that much entropy. We say the same words, same phrases, and it's probably very easy to build up a mental model of somebody if you've got enough of their data. And then from that mental model, it's probably quite easy to figure out, where they would hide their Bitcoin seed or whatever. Yeah. So it's definitely an attack vector when you have these AIs which have access to your data. But I
Well, and
will
it's
also
it's
say that
it's
like
it's almost the same thing as the game. I really want to go back and watch that again, Ben. I don't think I've seen it since it came out. I thought I'd watch it more, but it is kind of a twist. Once you know the twist, I'm not sure if you're into it. But to think about, he's a bored rich guy, and he wants to play this game. He's interested, so he's willing to do the interview. He's willing to give them the information. Everybody out there is just a bored computer user, and what they really want is this artificial intelligent assistant that's going to improve their lives and do all their stuff for them. So they're willing to give them all their data and to give them even a whole Mac Mini to play around, or a Cloudflare instance in a Docker container. And yeah, I think it's going to work out terribly. I think it's a terrible idea. And
it is a terrible idea.
it's
And
interesting how
yeah,
it's like it's deceptively good. You're like, if I controlled the AI, it will be good. If OpenAI controls the AI, it will be bad. But the reality is, neither of you, OpenAI nor you, can control the AI. You have no idea what this program is going to do. And the idea, first of all, when they said it could control computers, and they're like, okay, we're sandboxing, it'll move the mouse, but that was enough. That was enough for me. And now they're like, it can control a computer, and this is good because you want it texting your mom, and you want it like depositing money in your account, and you want it creating a religion overnight on the Claudebot forum or whatever's going on out there. It's fascinating how fast it moves as well.
But the bigger models, the OpenAI, whatever else, like the amount of energy which has to be consumed in order to make it good. I'm not sure that these local models and these local AIs are going to be able to compete with that, to be quite honest.
It's obviously it has enough to be dangerous. That's even worse, Ben, because
Yeah.
if you imagine a local model or even a Docker model or having a smaller brain than, say, the OpenAI brain or whatever, now you have a small brained assistant trying to do your tasks. Like there's much more possibility. I've heard a researcher gave all his data to AI, and I don't understand this in today's day and age, but he apparently had no backups, and the AI deleted all of his data. So
Yeah,
don't do
that was
that
one with
either. Like have
that was
freaking
one with
backups. Like
that was one with the company, wasn't it, where the AI had deleted their entire database, and then there was this funny thread where they were saying, "Have you deleted the database?" And the AI was like, "Yes, I have."
I was all happy about it. I saved us so much disk space and so much time. Like think about how much time you wasted updating that
Yeah,
database that I've saved you. Da, 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 da. It's all
yeah,
happy. Yeah,
yeah.
and it's so fast too to lose it. Hey, shout out to DJ Booth in the chat,
Oh,
joining
DJ
us all
Booth.
the way from Australia. The
Yeah.
creator of the World Crypto Network and Mad Bitcoin web pages. Ooh, DJ Booth.
And then the first to create a Kickstarter on Bitcoin
That's
off
right.
the back
The
of one of
Kickstarter
your
program.
ideas. That's fantastic. Yeah, DJ Booth is a
Yeah,
legend,
that was really good
a
tally
builder
coin for a
legend.
while. It
Yeah,
helped
man.
fuel the Canadian trucker protest
Yeah, that
against
was
the COVID
amazing.
vaccine.
Yeah.
Not something I was in favor in, but I was in favor of them having a ability to raise money. So that
It
worked
was
out.
cool the way. Do you remember it popping up on the news, on the traditional news, on the in the through the traditional press, where they started talking about Tallycoin and showing screenshots of it and stuff, and we were like, "Wow, we
Yeah, it
made
was
it,
awesome.
boys!"
They acted like it was a real fundraising platform, like it was, oh yeah, Tallycoin or GoFundMe or one of these platforms. And it's like, really, that's just like an interface on top of Bitcoin. Like you could just use Bitcoin, but
It was
and
genius.
that was a great interface.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're running out of time here. Ben, do you have a prediction or a story of the week? Anything you'd like to say at the end of the show?
Not really, just slugging away. Built a whole bunch of cool Bits extensions. We made a chat one more recently, which I'm going to do a video for and make public. So you can do like paid chats, and you can like have one of them little embedded chat link things in your website. And then also it built like a cool reverse proxy one too, so you can easily make like a reverse proxy, because that's always a hurdle for people when they install the software. It's like, how do I open all the ports to get the outside world access to it? Um, so yeah, we've just been slugging away on Bits. So yeah, I don't really have a life outside of that. So yeah,
Sounds good.
that's all I've been up to. But yeah, watch out, keep your eye out for the videos and whatnot we release. But the software is really coming along. It's really quite exciting. Also within Nostr as well, I'm seeing a lot of cool projects in Nostr. That's quite exciting. Um, and yeah, I think 2026 is going to be an interesting year.
Well, I just want to close by talking about Dune. I think a lot of people are seeing the Dune movies and they're getting just a little taste of the kind of Dune mythology. But I think it's going to take them too long to get to the heavy, meaty parts of Dune. I think you can get there faster if you read the books or listen to the audiobooks if you must. Anyway, at the core of Dune, besides all the desert and all the spice and stuff, they have a ban on AI. They have a ban on thinking machines. And Herbert was very concerned about thinking machines. And the characters in the book explain that the navigators need the spice so that they can do hyperspace jumps and plot them through space. They use the spice like a drug. Other people use the spice. The Bene Gesserit use the spice to predict the future. Again, future predictive powers, jumping through space, predicting the future of governments and society and civilizations, far seeing the kind of things that we're using our AI for, our large language models. And they say that they had tons of problems with the computers, maybe not killing everyone, but making everyone bored and dumb and uninteresting and untalented. And that humans actually lost their talents because the computer became so great. And if you get into the later books of Dune, which are not going to become movies in our lifetime, if ever, especially the fourth book, God, Emperor of Dune, where, kind of a spoiler alert, but a certain character merges with a sandworm. So now you've got a character living 10,000 years, and he goes into the future, and you don't know any of the characters, you don't know any of the religions. The characters that you read about in the first three Dune books, the trilogy, seem like a legend, like the old days. And to you, they're real because you just read them. But if you get to the fourth book, and then the fifth and the sixth, and then the seventh and eighth book, which Herbert was unable to finish, which were written by his son and Kevin Anderson, who wrote some of the Star Wars books that are really good. So there's a lot of books out there. There's a lot of information out there, and you'll get there faster if you go through the books and don't just wait for the movies, because they're still working on the first book in the movies. And also, I want to, again, shout out this General Magic documentary, this fascinating company called General Magic, founded in 1989 or so by Mark Porat, Andy Hertzfeld, Bill Atkinson, all from the Macintosh team. They had the idea of the iPhone in the 80s and 90s. They had the touch screen, they had everything, and they didn't win. So it's really an interesting story. They had the best team, the best ideas in the right place, tons of money, all kinds of collaborations, but it didn't come together. Meanwhile, everyone on that team goes on to found another company or to do something else, as Silicon Valley is. So maybe, in a way, General Magic did succeed. And certainly we all have iPhones and Samsungs and all these things, Androids these days. One of the General Magic crew was one of the founders of Android as well. So,
well,
they had a closed model. They had an incredible deal with like 15 industry players who all hate each other. Panasonic and Sony were on the same team, Apple and AT&T, but their model focused on like AT&T closed mail. So they had a very safe mail model, but obviously email came out, the web came out, all this flowing data. Anyone could make a web page. They had an interface more like, it was before the Newton. Like the Newton was basically based on their designs. Like Apple kind of stole from their General Magic partnership to make the Newton. Sony eventually releases the device as the Magic Link, and it's a huge disaster. Really, only the team and the family and friends have them because they get them for free. They sell almost no commercial devices, but they had everything. And to hear this, the visionary guy.
When you watch the when you watch the BlackBerry film, you realize that actually the innovation wasn't the device, because I remember I had an LG Prada like a year before the iPhone, and that was basically an iPhone. Like it was touchscreen, there's no buttons. It was amazing. Everyone was in awe of this thing. It's beautiful. And but the real innovation, which made the iPhone successful and popular, was not paying for minutes. It was paying for data with the mobile phone providers. And that's what made them be able to, with the BlackBerry, you could send an email, but that's what meant that you could have your web browser running properly on an iPhone. You could have all this music as well, was by selling data, because there was no ceiling when it came to the cellular phone providers on what they could charge, which then made it possible. But Apple, they stole everyone's things. They stole the mouse from Xerox and But it's
and this one's the worst because it's all former Apple people, and they were having meetings with Apple, and they're explaining it to them, they're showing them their prototypes and all this stuff, and then Apple on their own, and they kind of blame John Scully, who is the non-technical CEO of Apple, the guy from Pepsi, and they say, oh, he needed a product, etc. They released the Newton, which I actually used back in the day. I had one of the typewriter full clamshell Newtons. I had a little keyboard at school, and it was incredible. And we didn't get anything that good for years later, as good as the Newton or the early Palm Pilots, things like this. We had the tech, we had the ideas, but it didn't come together into the iPhone until the iPhone, and then shortly after that, the Samsung and the Android and all the other versions. But it also kind of reminded me of curio cards, where we released our product, which were digital collectibles. We called them blockchain collectibles back in the day on Ethereum, and they were a variation of the ICO token, just modified to be a collectible. No one wanted them, we left them out there in the vending machines. That what else could you do? And eventually people wanted them. They wanted the collectibles. They liked this idea of the collectibles. In the same way, General Magic has this iPhone that they think everybody's going to want, and maybe their version wasn't as fast as what Apple releases 10 years later, so on and so forth. But they had all the different kind of conceits down, that it would be a button screen, there would be these things, you'd use your finger, all these kind of things that you'd connect to the network. And while they didn't succeed either, General Magic, it really seems like everyone in the movie is a huge success. There's a guy that's he founded Nest, he founded LinkedIn, he founded this, he made the iPod, then he made the iPhone, the other guy makes the Android phone. Like these ideas that the visionary guy came to them with this big red book full of basically the iPhone in a big book. It worked. Like the ideas got out there, but they didn't get to dominate or control the market.
I think that happened like in Bitcoin, it happened in Nostr. It's you see it early on, like people discuss all these amazing ideas and things you could do with a tool like Bitcoin or a tool like Nostr or whatever. The market just doesn't exist, and there's not enough users, and the money's not there, and maybe the technology doesn't exist either. There's nothing wrong in just going back in time to when something started. Still now with Bitcoin, you could probably go back to some of those discussions from 2010, 11, and then find some great ideas for Bitcoin applications, which just haven't been built, because people were kind of speculating. It was still just this blank canvas of possibilities of things you could build. It takes a long time for the market to actually be ready for those things to exist. So I suppose that was Jobbo's ultimate gift, was his ability just for market timing. The market timing on his products were impeccable.
He really did have a good time. It was an incredible device when it launched, the iPhone. And they show the creator, the visionary, he's carrying his giant red book full of ideas in like a drone shot with the ocean behind him and the trees and the wind is blowing. And, you look at this guy who was totally right, completely right. He diagrammed it well. He described it well. He convinced major players like Andy Hertzfeld to leave Apple and to join his company to build it. He brought in all this VC fund. He had this incredible alliance of all these different companies working together, and they still didn't get it. They got really close, but they didn't get it. But in a way, though, the dream that they had, the thing that he describes, this everything device that lets you do all the stuff and makes everybody really smart. Well, I wish that would help, but makes everybody at least on time to their appointments, and they can video things and maybe get killed. They helped make that. They made that possible. That distraction machine, that portable, horrible distraction machine destroying your life.
Which is destroying our lives.
Yeah, which is destroying absolutely everything.
Well, no one ever thinks of the downsides. They're like, oh, this thing is going to unite humanity and make the world a better place. And it's like,
that's why it's sad to see Steve go and everything with it, and they wish he'd done better on the cancer. But in a way, it's kind of like, you bastard, you left us with this. Like, he doesn't get to see the results. Like, I think Steve would be even more into like screen time and turning the phones off and having controls, and like the characters at the end of Ready Player One, where they're like, maybe we should go outside on Thursdays. Oh yeah, that's a good idea. we're absolutely at that level. And especially the kids, like you go see the kids today and you see their face in this phone. You see their face in the tablet. You don't see the kids anymore. So.
However, like a lot of that stuff, which came later, the downsides to technology, often it's led by, corrupt incentives by, corporations or whatever to steal people so they can maximize profits at the sacrifice of their users' well-being. So it's not something you envision. You build this technology, you think of all the good it can bring into the world, and then these corporations and these negative incentives take hold. But I think we're building systems which can move away from that. From that relationship.
It would have been amazing in the first iPhone demo, and maybe somebody could make this for me on the AI, the Sora or whatever, and they could say it's Steve Jobs, and he's demonstrating how to use Candy Crush. He's like, look at this incredible device. You can match 3 things together. All you have to do is match 3 similar things. The blocks drop down. and you could spend your entire life playing this game. Young people, old people, we flash the screen and we vibrate, give you that little dopamine hit when you get a match. Imagine you in the future matching 3 things in a various versions of this game. Thank you, Steve.
You can't envision that dystopia, can you? So
We're right there. It was not his fault. He couldn't see it. But we're out of time for today. Thanks for everybody joining us in the chat. Leave your comments down below. We always read the comments. There are not that many, but shout out to Roy. Keeps the comments coming. Shout out to DJ Booth in the chat and Starship. Again, it was so fun to meet Starship at the convention up in Manchester. Where we've been? Manchester. And yeah, it was great in the cold. And it's always good to go to Bitcoin conventions and meet people. And but you're probably hibernating now in England and in the cold and in the southern storms here. We've had incredible storms in the U.S. So everybody stay safe and stay warm. And give us a thumbs up and subscribe down below if it's your first time here. And until next time, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Ben's not going to say bye-bye. You're going to wait. Too good to bye-bye.
I did say bye-bye. Bye-bye.
I know.
Oh,
I'm adding more so that the thing won't cut it off. This way, it'll cut it off in mid-sentence here.